Okay, so I remember in middle school, guys, that was the age when girls started stuffing their bras, in my middle school at least. And some days girls' tits would be like this big, and some days they wouldn't stuff as much, so it would be like flat as fuck, and I was just so confused. I was like, fuck, how are your tits so huge yesterday, but today they look like shit? And also these chicks would walk with that duck walk, right? Like that. And it was so distracting to see girls walk like a fucking duck. This whole time I was like, why do they do this? But it's making me stare. I was thinking about that duck walk because the topic of this video is anterior pelvic tilt. So Eric Helms is gonna help us break down what this is, how it's caused, and also what we can do to fix it. It's not a huge issue, but for some people it could be really annoying. It may improve your performance in the gym and just your overall posture and everything. So hope you guys enjoy. That was the most retarded little story I've ever told. Peace.
It's short and perfect.
I think I even have this problem, Eric.
Yes.
Everyone wants to know. What the hell is anterior pelvic tilt? We got Mike Koch asking. I've done a disgusting amount of research on anterior pelvic tilts. Disgusting amount. I do a stretching routine for it every day. I strengthen the posterior chain, yada yada yada. Heavy squats, deadlifts, they don't help. They put a lot of stress on the area. Could it be from sitting too much? Could it be from bad posture? First of all, yes. Like a lot of these guys probably aren't going to know what we're talking about. What is anterior pelvic tilt?
So anterior means forward.
Yeah.
Pelvic means of the pelvis. Yeah. So if you look at somebody,
what would it look like? Can you?
Yeah. So this is a neutral pelvis. This is an anterior tilt. This would be a posterior tilt. Right? So anterior pelvic tilt.
Like duck walking?
It's like an over-exaggerated, hyperextended spine, right? Shortened hip flexors, and this does a number of things in the body. So
how is that developed, or how is it created? How's it
in our society? Pretty much, I'm sitting a lot.
Yeah.
And he's thinking of corrective exercise from a bodybuilder standpoint or a strength athlete standpoint. You think, okay, so I need to strengthen the muscles.
One sec.
He's talking about I need to do squats and deadlifts to try to strengthen my glutes and hamstrings to correct it.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. Yeah.
Right. The thing is corrective exercise is not about strengthening.
Yeah.
I mean, you can have super strong muscles, but the global movers are not the same as the stuff that stabilizes and controls posture. Right? I mean, because think about it. If I just relax all my muscles right now, I'd do that.
Yeah.
Right? So that means that there are some muscles always activated. And these are the muscles that don't produce much force, they produce enough to hold you up and have to constantly be flexed. You can't constantly flex your bicep, it fatigues. It's a big prime mover. So training the big prime movers that can only do 8 to 10 reps or whatever is not the way you correct posture. You have to get activation and neurological control of the guys that are controlling and adjusting your posture. The first thing that we need to think about, okay, what's the root cause? In our sedentary society, it's pretty much sitting all the time. And when you're seated, your hip is flexed. And believe it or not, the muscle that flexes your hip is your hip flexor. That's the psoas for you folks who have anatomy books.
So I'm flexed right now?
A little bit, yeah.
Oh, fuck.
Yeah, I don't never sit. No, it's okay.
I don't even feel it.
Yeah, well, it's okay to flex your hip. You know, it's allowed to happen.
All right, good.
The problem is if you spend most of the day in front of a computer,
oh shit,
sit in a car, sit on the couch, and then you spend 1 hour a day weight training, that they don't equal. You know what I'm saying? So you're going to have to spend a lot of time correcting the anterior tilt, which is caused by shortened hip flexors, which will pull the pelvis down, right? And then what you're going to get is lengthened abdominals, and you're going to get lengthened, glutes and hamstrings. So the glutes kind of get shut off. Anytime you lengthen something, it's not contracting. It's the opposite of that, right? So if like me to do a bicep curl, my tricep has to relax. If they were both working at the same time, I would just stay there. So on a smaller scale, this is happening. If your hip flexor is always shortened, that means your glutes are always lengthened. The hip flexor is shortened, the hip extensor is lengthened. That means there's going to be a small signal turning the glutes off, right? So that means that something else has to work when the glutes aren't. So that means you start getting what's called synergistic dominance. It's just basically a way of saying when you have a sleepy muscle, the friends who help it have to work harder, right? So that means you get a lot of guys getting hamstring tears has nothing to do with the hamstring. It has to do with their hamstrings doing double time and hip extension because the glutes aren't doing their job.
Okay.
So that means they get overloaded, you get a hamstring tear, and they think, okay, I need to address the hamstring, address the hamstring. The root of the problem is shortened hip flexors. So, you know, what you need to do is to start addressing all sides of what's going on with the pelvis, you know. So you need to think of if it's anteriorly tilted, this being the posterior side, we need to strengthen the core and not the rectus abdominis. Don't do a bunch of crunches. You know, get good control of your postural stabilizers like your transverse abdominis to start bringing that up. You know, foam roll and get your lower back to relax because now it's always shortened. You know, stretch and foam roll the hip flexor so it's not pulling down. And then get your glutes to start firing, which, you know, a great way for a bodybuilder is just to focus on, you know, foam roll and stretch hip flexor and start doing some single leg work. Because the single, you know, the glute medius and the glutes are gonna help you make sure the knee is tracking over the right place. And just by including some single leg work, the ability to stabilize while you're doing either a lunge or a single leg squat or a single leg deadlift, those are great too, is gonna start turning that glute medius on. Another thing that can cause anterior pelvic tilt, it's kind of a delayed effect, starts from us having, these are my feet, having collapsed arches. You know, the longitudinal arch will collapse because if you think about for hundreds of thousands of years, the surfaces we've been on were not paved. We weren't wearing shoes. And if you look at Aborigines or even people in Hawaii who, you know, barefoot and walk on a lot of, you know, uneven and varied surfaces, they don't have collapsed arches and pronated feet. Right? So it's very hard to, I mean, look around your city sometimes and where you walk and figure out where it's not a hard flat surface. And then think back to, unless you're walking on, like, after a volcano explosion, that doesn't exist in nature. You know, we have a foot that has, like, you know, we have our heel, and then we have the, you know, the muscles of the foot, and it's like this, and it's meant to hit the ground like that. And if this flattens, now all of a sudden we're getting more impact, and you're going to see the knees come in and the femurs internally rotate, which, watch this. So if look at my feet here. So right now I have good arches.
Yeah.
If I let my arches collapse, right, you're going to see my leg internally rotate. My knees are going to come in, and now watch what happens to my belt line when I do that. It goes into anterior pelvic tilt.
Do that again.
So the femurs and everything internally rotate, and I go into anterior pelvic tilt. So if you have collapsed arches and pronated feet, that can eventually lead to anterior pelvic tilt. So another thing you can do is really work on getting your arches back. And that can
How would you do that?
So you know the Vibrams that are out there, the 5 fingers?
Yeah.
You know, walking barefoot all the time? That's good, it's just that there aren't good surfaces for it. So you can start to work towards having a more minimalist shoe to try to get your arches to strengthen, but you need to gradually build up to it. And I would also advise doing some actual activation and getting that muscle to work again, because it's been turned off since you were like 6.
So like foam roll your foot a little bit?
You could. Another thing you probably want to do is foam roll your calves.
Yeah.
Because they're going to be part of that also, especially the lateral gastroc, kind of pulling the foot out like that. But main thing you want to do is start activating the big toe. Like the big toe is kind of used as a brake, right? And when the arch flattens, it kind of moves backward on the foot, and the big toe turns out, and you start using like the big knuckle right here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So if you can start getting your arches to work again, that can be thinking about pushing your big toes down while you squat or deadlift, or while you're walking, you know, and you don't want to actually claw, but you want to just think of putting pressure so that arch comes back, right? Okay. So another thing you can do is do like towel scrunches with your feet to start actually just activating, and like once the easy one, get out of the shower, you just dried yourself, throw your towel on the ground, put one foot on it, and just scrunch the towel all the way back towards you like this with your toes.
Interesting.
And that'll start activating it.
I need to do that.
Most of us do.
Okay, so stop this off. The things that we need to do, or that we could do to help fix our anterior pelvic tilt, which a lot of us have.
Foam roll, and then afterwards stretch your hip flexor.
Hip flexor as in right there.
So this, okay. Do some core stability training, which could be as simple as like a Palloff press, or
what is Palloff press?
Too hard to explain in this video. Go Google it.
All right.
Or being in a plank position on a stability ball and doing rotations here. Anything or doing a single arm farmer's walks. Right?
Shit.
Getting stuff to make your core stay
like
stable
a briefcase
while
walk.
you're dynamically moving, right?
Okay.
Activate the glutes by doing single leg work
Hip thrusts by chance? Anything like that?
I would rather see single leg hip thrusts.
You'd rather see single leg hip thrusts?
Yeah,
Okay.
because if you're doing double leg, you can still get the hamstrings taken over.
True.
Foam roll the hamstrings, but don't stretch them. They're already stretched. Just get them to relax a little bit so your glutes can do more. So foam roll, stretch, psoas, hip flexor, same thing. Yeah. Activate glutes with some single leg work. Foam roll the hamstrings to get it to relax. Foam roll the lower back to get it to relax a little bit. Do core stabilization work, all the ways I talked about. And also assess whether or not you've got some pronated feet or flat feet turning out. And foam roll the calves and start activating that big toe as a brake. And
So I think
it's a minimalist shoe.
I think a lot of people are gonna be wondering where in their workout schedule are they doing this shit. Like
This is probably not
before
part of what
workout,
you do.
after workout.
So foam roll
Off
every
day.
You can't foam roll too much. Foam roll and stretch.
There we go.
All the time, and you can do some simple things to incorporate this. Like do your like dumbbell shoulder presses and a half kneeling. You know.
Really?
Right? Activate the glute. This glute activates so this knee doesn't come forward. Press down with the big toe, contract the abs, and then do shoulder presses. And you're also getting a hip flexor stretch. Each set, switch sides, right?
Wow.
So be efficient with it, you know? You can do all kinds of stuff like that. Just modify your positions. I mean, we're built to move. Before we decided muscles were pretty, they were moving us, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the more
So
we get
pretty.
into a sedentary society and a culture of bodybuilding getting separated from every other physical pursuit and just thinking about activating and isolating muscles, the more you're going to run into movement impairments. And then I don't give a shit how well you can isolate a muscle. If you can't move because your shoulder's impinged or
Life sucks.
you can't train, you know? So, I mean, the goal of bodybuilder is to get bigger muscles, but to do that, you have to move efficiently.
Yeah. I noticed that the bigger I get or the more muscular I get, the more this kind of shit I have to do.
Yeah.
More mobility shit, flexibility kind of stuff, foam rolling. Like, when is the right time to do this? At home? Should people have this shit
There's
at home?
no wrong time to do mobility, flex. I mean, we're built
Good
to move
answer.
all the time, you know?
Okay. So, I mean, like, in between my sets of squats,
Sure.
could I be doing some shit?
You probably wouldn't want to foam roll between your sets of squats because you don't want to turn off muscles that are trying to work.
Okay.
But I would say, you know, pre-workout, you know, foam roll, post-workout, foam roll, and then do dynamic warm-ups. Modify some of your, pre-workout.
Yeah.
And then during the workout, modify some of your exercises to actually get what you need activated. So if you've got anterior pelvic tilt,
One-legged shit.
one-legged shit, or even upper body work from the half kneeling position like I just showed you.
Yeah.
And then post-workout, you know, foam roll and stretch all the stuff that you need to get lengthened.
Yeah.
And then
The shoes, minimalist shoe.
do the shoes, do the towel scrunches after you get out of the shower.
Walk on your big toe.
Yeah, use your big toe a little bit.
Use your big toe.
Exactly.
Okay.
And you know, ease into these things. Just like you wouldn't start, you know, doing a small off squat cycle the first time you worked out.
Yeah, that's true.
You know, you probably do squats once a week with
Maybe
lightweight.
one step at a time.
Right. The last thing you want to do is get Vibrams and wear them 24/7.
Yeah.
You're gonna fuck your feet up.
Oh, I did that before. My feet were fucking fucked.
Yeah.
Like, my calves were fucked.
I mean, think about the last time that you were walking barefoot on a regular basis. You're probably 3.
Yeah, that's
You know
true.
what I'm saying? So you've got, you know, 17 years of not doing barefoot to let's do it 24/7. So you need to build up to it. I'd say a couple hours a day, and then, you know, every week add an hour, and then, you know.
That reminds me, I need
walk
to get some new
barefoot at home.
Vibrams. Shit.
There you go.
Thanks, bro.
No problem.
Buy 2 get 1 deal, because I want some too.
So like
Oh,
a buy
yeah.
2 get 3 free.
Can someone out there who, like, works at a Vibram store send us some Vibrams?
Yeah. Since I just saved like 15,000 people's feet, I expect Vibrams in the mail tomorrow.
All right. Well,
Pretty good, huh?
you better fucking share, like, and comment on this shit, guys. Swear to God.
I just fixed your pelvis, I fixed your feet, I made you huge, I made you shredded. You know, come on.
You fucks better show your appreciation for this shit. God.
I'm never gonna get hired again.
Hey. Get on my 15-week transformation video. There's like 12,000 shares on it.
That dare transformation.
They love those transformations. Anyways.
Hey, quit being a little bitch!
Ogus cake!